Hi, I'm Treva. I'm an alcoholic. My home group is Pickers and Grinners, and my sobriety date is July 26, 1983. And for that, I'm grateful. Nancy, I met, I don't know when it was some months ago though, and I first met her over at the Train Depot meeting on Wednesdays, the step study meeting over there. And she just had the most pleasant smile on her face, and she still does. She almost always does, I think. And I went up and introduced myself because I'd never seen her, and I figured she was someone new. And then she told me she had been sober for 40 years, and I'm like, yay! Because she and I have the same amount of sobriety, just about. And that may not mean a whole lot to you guys, but it did to me on that day. And as I've gotten to know her and talk to her, I see the value and the experiences of time staying sober, and how she and I could relate to so much. And it's really cool to have someone like her to share the struggles that we still have in sobriety, and the joys and the experiences we still get to have. And it's just really cool. I was talking to her before this meeting, and we had some really good laughs. And I had not heard her entire story, but I heard people rant and rave after when she shared in Tri-Lakes, and heard that her story is really good. So here we go with Nancy.
Thank you, Treva. Thank you, ladies, for reading. Thank you, Donna, for chairing the meeting. I'm an alcoholic. My name is Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
My sobriety date is April 9th, 1984. I have a sponsor. I sponsor others. My home group, is still Early Birds in El Paso, Texas. We meet online, so it has been super convenient for me to keep that as my home group. Plus, I need that support. I need that love, and I need to know that those people are there and that I'm still part of that group. So I'm grateful for that. I am searching for a home group here in Branson as well. So, and a sponsor here in Branson. I still have my sponsor in El Paso. We talk on the phone a couple of times a week, and once a week we Zoom together. It's not the same. I have, especially lately, as I've been getting to know some people, I felt kind of like, oh, yeah, I love Laura, don't get me wrong, and she has added so much to my sobriety, and I can't imagine my life not having her in it somewhere. But I'm really feeling kind of a calling to reach out, and get connected with some of the ladies here, and I think that needs to happen for me. Because I can bullshit a bullshitter, there's no question about it. I could look right in your eyes and just, hope you don't see what's really going on, So it's important for me to have eye contact with another woman in Alcoholics Anonymous and tell her the truth about me. So that's kind of where, I'm searching a little bit for that. I'm trying to let the unplanned unfold, trying to let God put the person in my life and me not make it happen, because I'm pretty good at making it happen kind of thing, and it always turns to crap when I do that. So that tells you a little bit about me, where I'm at right now. I'll share my experience, strength, and hope with you to the best of my ability. I don't want to get caught up in the past. I've been sober for April 9th. It was 40 years, so I have a lot of sober experiences that I would prefer to talk about. And sometimes I just get caught in that old, the old Nancy, right? What happened. And what happened was I grew up in Chicago. I'm full-blooded Italian. I was born into a family. We were lower middle class. Maybe not even middle class. We were just kind of lower class. My dad was a cab driver. My parents were born in Italy, so my dad was a cab driver. My mom was a waitress. We lived in tenement houses. We lived in apartments, and I thought I didn't think we were in like a bad neighborhood, and we really weren't. It was an Italian Jewish neighborhood, And it seemed to me like everybody else was kind of on the same page, right? Like we all kind of lived in a tenement house, and, we all didn't have the fancy, shiny cars and all of that. My dad had a 1963 Rambler, and he drove it until the wheels fell off, and I would love that car, and he loved it. He would be out there, and he'd be like polishing the car, and he was proud of it. So it wasn't like, I thought we were poor. I never really got that feeling. But I did always have the feeling that I didn't fit in. I always had a feeling that, that my mom and dad loved my brother more than they loved me. That was a constant for me. That the kids that I hung around with really didn't want to hang around with me. That the kids were making fun of me. And I'll tell you a little story. I went through a detox, a 28-day treatment program in a halfway house. It was all part of one building. I got sober in St. Petersburg, Florida. And while I was in there, things are revealed. When I went through treatment, things started to become revealed to me. It's like people were throwing the truth in my face, and I couldn't run away from it. And that had to be a God thing. But I remember calling my mom, and she was still alive back then, and I said, Mom, in kindergarten, this is kindergarten, before first grade, I said, why did those kids push me down the stairs? And she said, oh, honey, that's not what happened. She said, you started pushing them down the stairs. So I was already like painting the picture the way I wanted to see it, and blaming everybody for the way that I felt and the way I perceived things. It was already there, and I was 5 years old, and thinking if only those kids would stop picking on me, everything would be okay. And and that probably didn't happen, but it happened in my head. It happened in my head, and I reacted to it, and that's how I lived my life. That's exactly how I lived my life. And think about, from then until the time I was 23, and if that's how I lived my life, I came in here with a pile of crap. I came in here really hating myself, thinking it was, everybody's fault except mine, right? And, I'm learning today that I'm the problem, and I'm also part of the solution today. If I choose to work the steps, and I choose to show up, and I choose to be honest. So, growing up in the city, I can't remember if I know I felt horrible most of the time, and I know that I really pushed people away from me, kids my own age, I really pushed them away. And I felt lonely most of the time, and I really identified with my cats. The cats gave me love, and I really identified with that. My dad was a gambler. He passed away when I was 12 or 13, and we went to bury him, and he had cashed in everybody's life insurance policy for a debt. And my mom seemed to be the one who worked all the time, and like I said, she was a waitress, so she worked hard, and wasn't there for me a lot of the times. And honestly, when my dad was home, I was kind of embarrassed for him because he didn't want to be bothered. He certainly didn't, make any of, the people that I brought over feel comfortable. He would always have like a scowl on his face, and he was a pretty tough guy. He was a pretty tough Goomba. And he wouldn't put up with anything or anybody. I remember one time I wouldn't eat what was on my plate. That's all. I just wouldn't eat it. I didn't like it, And he got up from the table, and he was, when he would do that, it would scare me. He never hit me. My parents never beat me or anything like that. They didn't have to. They would just look at me, and my dad would do something like that, and I would just, freak out. And I remember things like that, but I don't remember a lot of affection, and I don't remember a lot of love from him at all. I don't know if he was capable of doing it. I'm pretty sure that I probably drank over some of that, but when I got sober, I was told that, my parents did the very best they could with what they had to work with. and I choose to believe that. I choose to believe that my parents loved me the best they could. They just didn't have the tools to, be there for me. And my mom physically couldn't be there for me because she had to pay bills, so she was working all the time, So I feel very fortunate that when I came in that I was told that, because it saved me a lot of grief. It saved me, if you had my parents, you'd drink this way too, or drug this way too, just like I heard people say, that were married, if you had my husband, you would drink that way too, or whatever, and I didn't fall into that category. I didn't. I came in, and by the time I got here, I knew that it was me. I knew it was me making the decisions. I knew it was me who decided to, lie about things, to manipulate, to con, to cheat, to steal, to do whatever I had to do in order to be okay. It really didn't have a whole lot to do with, oh, woe is me, I grew up and we didn't have a lot of love and affection. I'm sorry, but that story will kill me. That story will absolutely kill me and not give me any courage and any strength in any direction. So I'm grateful for that. I picked up my first drink when I was 11 or 12. It was a bottle of sweet vermouth. I don't know how that happened, but it was me and my friend Mary. I got drunk and went outside, and I do remember that feeling of like my inhibition was gone. It was just gone, I was just okay with the world, like I was one with the universe, and I can't say that I became a daily drinker after that, but I did have that sensation of like, this is good, this is really good. I don't have that fear anymore when I was drunk like that. So I don't remember if I got kicked out of high school or if I dropped out of high school, but I can tell you that I didn't really even make it through my freshman year. I just I didn't go. Other things were more important to me, like, getting high or whatever. I didn't want to go to school. School didn't interest me at all. Even though prior to that first drink, I was a pretty good student, but after that, I was like off to the races, so I'm grateful to know these things about myself today, for sure. So my dad passed away right when I got kicked out or dropped out of freshman year of high school. And I can remember being at his wake, and me and my friend Susan went out back and we smoked a joint at my father's wake, and I felt no remorse, I felt no pity, I felt nothing. I felt nothing in here at all. And I was very good at being able to numb every single feeling I had. I was very good at that. And that's exactly what I did with my dad. And it wasn't until I was sober, probably 35 years, that I remember walking in my kitchen and I had a picture of my mom and dad. And I had just left a meeting, and in this meeting a lady had said, excuse me one second. A lady who had time shared that she went to the gravesite of her father, and she got on her knees and she asked for forgiveness, and it touched me, and that day I walked by the picture of my mom and dad, and I looked at my dad and I said, I love you, you did the best you could. And I was sober a long time before I actually felt, the head hit the heart like that. Alcoholics Anonymous has given me some incredible gifts, has allowed me to face myself in the mirror, face myself with other people, and it gives me courage and strength. I'm grateful for that. So long story short, I got kicked out of my house when I was probably 15. My mom handed me a hefty bag full of stuff and a cat and said, "You want to be on your own so bad, here you go." And I left. And I became, I was a cute kid, young, and I knew how to work the room, so I got very alcoholic jobs at the age of 15 and 16. I will share with you that I was a stripper, and I say that because I need to share that stuff. I need to share that and let you know how my life has changed, and it was scary. It was absolutely scary for me to go through all of that, and I learned that the more I drank, the less I cared. The more I drank, the less I thought I felt. But deep down inside, I can tell you that when I came into AA, I absolutely hated myself. I sold my soul to the devil over and over and over again. That's where alcohol brought me. That's exactly where it brought me. At the very end of my drinking, I was drinking 2 quarts of vodka a day. I was living on the beach, not in a condo, on the beach in the sand, and I didn't care. I just didn't care. I would go into these really nice motels and hotels on the beach, and I would shower and get cleaned up and hit up some guy in a bar for, more alcohol or drugs or whatever, whatever I could possibly get. And, there was a part of me that still believed I had it made. I don't have to pay rent. I don't have to do anything. Look at me. I'm living out here, and then there was this bigger part of me that just couldn't do it anymore. There was a part of me that just like, I can't live like this anymore. But yet I did, I lived like that. And somehow or another, I was in California. I don't know. I would definitely travel when I was drinking. I was a blackout drinker. I had DTs. I had it, I have alcoholism for sure. And I remember I was in California and doing some really crazy stuff, really, really crazy stuff, needles and all of that. And I ended up on a Greyhound bus, and I ended up going to Clearwater, Florida. And honestly, if I would have known that I was going to Clearwater to get sober, I probably would have stayed in California. Because still, even at that point, it was not my fault. It was not anything that I was doing. If only I find the right guy, if only I find the right town, that kind of thinking. And it was not me. And I ended up in Clearwater, and I actually got a real job. And it was so perfect. The job that I got, I was selling office supplies for O'Shea Distributing, and turned out that the president was an alcoholic, and we would go in his office and drink, so it was really good for somebody like me. And I ended up for the first time going to I'm going to say a mental institution, because that's basically what it was. It was a mental health hospital. It was the kind of hospital where you stuck your cigarette in the wall to light it. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but they had these little holes where you would stick your cigarette in there to light it. That's where I was, Horizon. And Jim O'Shea, the owner of that company, came to see me, and he swore, "You're not an alcoholic. There's no way you're an alcoholic." And of course, he probably was. I don't know whatever happened to him. And that was my first experience with alcohol, with Alcoholics Anonymous. And I remember leaving there and not having a place to stay, and there was a lady that I worked with, and she let me stay at her house out of kindness, just out of kindness. And, I did nothing but drink all the time. I didn't show up. I didn't come back, I would puke in the bed, things like that. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. And from there, I remember my last drunk. And I remember being in St. Petersburg Beach, and I was at O'Malley's bar, and I found some guy, my story, it's my story, that's what I did. And woke up the next morning, or shook up the next morning, because I didn't wake up anymore. When I woke up, I needed a drink. I absolutely needed a drink. And there was nothing to drink, and he had like this little tiny half pint of vodka, and he gave it to me, and I'm like, what good is this going to do? And I drank it, and I went in the bathroom, and I looked in the mirror, and I looked gray, and there was just something in me that knew if I continued to do what I was doing, I was going to die. I see that today as a moment of clarity. I see it as God doing for me what I could not do for myself. And from there, this lady brought this man. I don't remember who he was or anything about him, but he brought me over to my friend Mary's house. And Mary was the wife of a guy that I used to drink with, Lefty, because he accidentally got his right arm chopped off one day when he was drinking. Mary brought me to church that morning, but before she brought me to church, we got on our knees and we said a prayer. Well, first she gave me a clean set of clothes to wear. I had been out drinking for days, so the alcohol was just reaping out of my pores. And she gave me a clean set of clothes to wear. We got on our knees, we said a prayer. I found out later that the prayer we said was the sinner's prayer. Then she said, we're going to go to church. And I'm like, oh, I'll die at church. You can't take me to church. I needed a drink. And she brought me there. And I remember, just slipping in and out of death. I can't really explain it well, but it was like I wanted to hold on, but I knew I couldn't hold on, And we get there, and I'm sitting there, and I said, I got to go. I can't stay. And I remember one of the things that I clearly remember is walking around Clearview Methodist Church, just on the outskirts of the church, just walking. And she finally came out, and she took me to detox. And that was my second time in detox. And in detox, they took my pulse rate. I was 23. They took my pulse rate. It was 168. And they asked me how old I was, and I told them, and they said, you look like, you're 45. And I did. I was bloated. I was bruised. I was a mess, an absolute mess. And I went into detox there, and this lady that I was staying with came and brought me my clothes, and they were in a brown paper bag. That's what I had when I got here, a brown paper bag. And, some things happened that really were in detox. Like I had a wheelchair race with some girl there down the hall. I was not serious about being sober. I just needed a place to rest for a little while till I could get the next idea, one of my great ideas. And something happened. Something happened for me. I was also addicted to phenobarbital, and they kept me, God bless phenobarbital, because, man, it kept me away from a morning drink long enough for me to say, see, I can't be an alcoholic. I don't drink in the morning. Well, no. I took 40 milligrams of phenobarb, so I was in a comatose, basically, is what I was. But this time in detox, they said that they were going to watch me, but they were going to take me off of the phenobarbital, and they saved my life by doing that. They took me off of the phenobarb. I withdrew from alcohol. It was ugly. I was there for 5 days, and they offered me a 28-day treatment program. I had nowhere else to go. But they said, the treatment program we're going to send you to is all women. And I'm like, oh. How can I manipulate? No, I have to have men around me to get my needs met, And I said I'd go. I said I would go to this all-women's treatment center, And by saying that, they let me go to a co-ed treatment center, which was in the same building as detox. And I stayed 31 days. I don't know, I'm very thirsty, sorry. And I got a sponsor in that treatment center. And her name was Mary, too. And I remember telling one of the small group counselors, I got a sponsor, yay, I got a sponsor. And Bill said, who'd you get? And I said, I got Mary. He said, you mean you got Marine Corps Mary? And I said, I guess so, but she was exactly what I needed, right? Because I was a little whippersnapper, man. I needed somebody to call me on my crap, I just lied. That's what I did. That's exactly what I did. So I got Mary as a sponsor. I finished that 28-day treatment program in 31 days because I'm very defiant, and I was smoking in the little dorm room, which wasn't allowed, and I got caught. And they gave me 3 extra days. And I got out of there and I lived at a halfway house for 3 months, Opportunity House. And I started going to AA meetings. And Mary started coming with me. I mean, every meeting I went to, there was Mary, and she was tough. I remember thinking, oh my God, this woman is going to kill me. She's just going to kill me. I don't know what to do. But when we did our 5th step together, she had the most beautiful blue eyes I'd ever seen in my life. And she sat across that table from me. And I remember just feeling the love from this woman, that she loved me and she really, really, really wanted me to get better. She didn't want anything from me. I had nothing anyway, but she didn't want anything from me. She just wanted to see me learn how to not drink alcohol every day. That was Mary. But she didn't hesitate to get in my face, like that, You're lying. How do you know? Your lips are moving. That's how I know, right? That kind of thing. And she met me at meetings. She loved me, and I knew she loved me. And she was like, at that time, she was my age, 64, 65. But I was 23. She was a lot older than me, And she just loved me into sobriety. But she loved me in a tough way, not, okay, Nancy, everything will be okay. Thank God I didn't have a sponsor like that. Thank God God put that woman in my life. There's no question about it, And we worked the steps together. In the very beginning, she was the first person that took me through the steps. I told her one day that I'm ready to do my 3rd step, Mary. And she said, I'll tell you when you're ready to do your 3rd step. Because I wanted to run the show, and I thought I knew what was best for me. I'm ready to do the 3rd step now. I'll tell you when you're ready to do the 3rd step. And thank God for that. Because I hadn't even worked the 1st step yet. Really and truly. I hadn't, I was going to a lot of meetings and I was sounding real good, the 90-day wonder. I was doing really well, I thought, and I hadn't really done the 1st step, but I just want to share the story with you that my very first job, sober, I got fired from because I couldn't work. I was going through withdrawals and I couldn't really even answer the phone. I couldn't be present. I just couldn't be present. I was like, like squirrel kind of look, right? And I get fired and I show up at the noon meeting at the St. Pete group. And it's a weekday. It's noontime. Mary works at a bank. There's no way she ever goes to the noon meeting there. She was there that day. She just happened to be there. And after the meeting, she pulled me aside and she said, say the 1st step. And I said it. And I was sober, 3 or 4 months, something like that. She said, say it again. And I said it again. She said, say it one more time. And I did. And I literally felt my head hit my heart. And that's when I truly accepted my alcoholism. It was at that very moment. I know that's exactly when it happened. It didn't mean that I was cured. It didn't mean that now I got it together. It just meant that I am convinced I am powerless over alcohol, and my life had become unmanageable. And it took that experience and that lady and that set of circumstances in order to get through this thick skull, that I don't run the universe, that I don't, I'm powerless, man. I'm powerless from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. So I'm grateful for the pain. I'm grateful for that experience. And she walked me through the steps. My fifth step, I shared a little bit about that with you guys. What I didn't tell you was at that time, now I'm into my fifth step. My fourth step, she told me to burn because it was a bunch of bullshit. She said, this is not what we're talking about here. But I had like a legal pad full of, all the deeds I had done, and it was just horrible, and oh my God. She said, that's not how we do it. And she guided me and directed me, and I did it the way that she suggested that I do it. And I got to do my fifth step with her, and that day, I was in my very first sober apartment, and I cooked a chicken. It was so wonderful. I cooked this chicken, I had this little tiny table for 2 people, so I put the chicken down and we're eating, and I'm in awe of how wonderful life is getting, right? And I told her my fourth step. And, that was the first time that I felt connected to Alcoholics Anonymous. After I was willing to tell somebody the truth about me and not hold anything back. I didn't hold anything back. I just didn't. That's God. That's God, because my very nature is I'm ashamed. I don't want to talk about that, but by the grace of God, I got to talk about that stuff. And I got to know that it was okay in a safe place. I felt super safe. I felt super loved that day. I knew I was, man. There was no question about it. So that's kind of how it all started for me in the beginning. Since then, I've had 3 sponsors. 2 of them have died. The third one I still have. The fourth one I still have, Laura. I worked the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now I live the steps of AA. It's not a one and done thing for me. I don't just, say, oh, I did, my 4th and 5th step. I don't have to do that again. For me, I do, because these things crop up, man. They're not just, it's not like I am cured. I have the ism. That's what I have, and I have to work at that on a daily basis. And I have to turn my thoughts and actions over to the care of God on a daily basis. And I have to look in my own eyes in the mirror on a daily basis. And I have to be willing to do this thing, man. If I'm not willing, I don't know. Don't think I wake up every morning going, oh, now I'm willing to, do whatever I have to do. It's not like that. It's more like, all right, if you want peace, if you want some semblance of okayness inside, then I need to be willing to know that it's up to me. It's not up to the city of Chicago. It's not up to my mom. It's not even up to my sponsor. It's not even up to you guys. It's up to me. I've never had anybody come to my house and put a gun to my back and say, let's go to AA. It's been like I've been willing to show up. By the grace of God, I've been willing to show up here. And I pray that I have that willingness, that honesty, open-mindedness, willingness. I pray that is something I can incorporate right now. Thank you, God, for the way things are right now. I graduated high school when I got here. I took my GED. In my first year, I got a high school diploma. I went to trade school. I was a travel agent before the internet showed up. And the internet showed up and kind of messed all that stuff up for me. But it catapulted me into, of all things, restaurant management. So I was a restaurant manager for years and had a part-time job at a furniture store and saw how much money those people were making, and I thought, I think I could do that. And spent 25 years in the furniture industry as a interior designer in the end, but design consultant mainly. So that's all the grace of God. That's all me. I was, I had alcoholic jobs, so I didn't know anything about an honest 8 for 8. But I learned that here. I absolutely learned how to go to work. I learned how to be a good employee, and show up and not give excuses for my behavior. All kinds of, wonderful gifts. I learned it here. I didn't learn it in school. I didn't learn it, at my job. I learned it in Alcoholics Anonymous, how to treat my fellow person, and it's been a blessing for me for sure. One of the things I do want to touch on is Mary was very big in service work. She was our DCM for our district in South Florida. And she got me involved as the GSR for my home group, the New North group at the time. And my ego loved that. Look at, I'm a GSR now, everything. Look at how wonderful I'm doing. And I remember going to my first district meeting and coming back with a plethora of information, to bring back to the New North group. And I think it was the first or second meeting, there were 2 guys in the back of the room that were sleeping as I'm giving my report, So service work for me has been like this whole thing of, allowing me to be right-sized, Just be right-sized, Nancy. No better, no worse. Eyeball to eyeball. That's all I got to do is just be eyeball to eyeball with you people, And what I deem as important, you may not deem it as important. Obviously, they were sleeping, in the back. They didn't think it was important. And then I have to learn to live and let live. It's okay. Sleep. Maybe they're tired. Maybe they just want to go to sleep. So that was my introduction to service work. When I rotated out, I was the South Florida area chairperson. And very grateful that they allowed me to serve. The Alcoholics Anonymous allowed me to serve. What I didn't share is that I was the recording secretary at the area level, I was corresponding secretary, and I was treasurer. And while I was treasurer, I spent like $87 of AA's money. And I am very fortunate I didn't drink over that. I'm very fortunate. And I had to get honest about it. And I had to tell my sponsor, then I had to go to the area and tell the area what I had done. When I could have just as easily given them a credit card for gasoline, I chose to spend that money. That was not my money. A fellowship that loved me and trusted me with their finances, and I felt horrible about it, but I did get honest. And it took me a long time to forgive myself over that one. That was a big deal. It was difficult. But it wasn't because I had a rough childhood. It had nothing to do with that. It had to do with my poor decisions, about selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of my problem. And it is driven by 100 forms of fear and self-delusion and self-seeking. And that's what I suffer from. That's what I got. That's in here. That's the little guy sitting right here going, oh, you think you could get away with it? Try, And I am forever grateful for the guidance and direction that I get from people who have gone before me and the newcomers, whoever shares from their heart. I'm grateful for that because they have walked me through some fires. There's no question about it. I've been married, I've been divorced, I've changed jobs, obviously I've moved. I had hepatitis C. I was diagnosed with hepatitis C when I was sober about 20 years. And thought, how could that happen? I'm sober 20 years. Well, I carried it with me for a long, long time. And it started to affect me a little bit. And I've been free from that disease. I was able to hold off on medication and hold off long enough to take the 90-day cure, and I did that, and I've been free, and I'm grateful for that. In 2021, the end of 2021, I knew I had a bad hip, And I woke up to go to work that morning and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't walk. And I knew I had to do something. So, I knew I couldn't work. I just knew. So I called up and I quit. And then I called Social Security Disability. And I got some lady on the phone, and she like walked me through this process, and within 3 months, I had disability insurance. And they said, we've never seen it happen that fast. And I knew it had to be God. It had to have been God. And I got on disability, and I went from being able to pay my bills, being able to be self-sufficient, comfortably, to learning how to live a totally different lifestyle after that. But I have to share with you that in Alcoholics Anonymous, I learned that I'm not my money, I'm not my car, I'm not the clothes I wear, I'm not the job that I do, and I learned that a long time ago. And it worked out okay for me. I didn't lose my mind. I didn't feel less than when it happened. I got the strength to walk on the coals, because of what you people gave me, the shoulders of the giants that I came in here on. What they gave me, what you all give me, it's right there. It's right there, and I get to practice it. I get many opportunities to practice it. Many opportunities. So I'm on disability. I do have a little part-time job that I really like, and then I did something stupid and said, I'll go to work full-time, and now I'm kind of regretting that. I don't really want to. We'll see what happens, but Alcoholics Anonymous for me has been the journey. It's been about the journey. It's been about knowing that I'm powerless over alcohol, that my life is unmanageable, that there is a God who will direct my thinking, that it's my inventory that I take, not yours, that I spend time each day asking God to remove my defects of character when they crop up. I can't remove them. I tried. They don't go away just because I want them to. They go away when I ask God to remove them. Then they come back, but they do go away if I ask for them to be removed. I spend time in meditation every day. I've gotten on my knees every morning since I've been here, except the time when my hip was bad, and every night I get on my knees. I ask God to please help keep me sober. I say other prayers, I spend time in meditation every day, no matter what, no matter how I feel. I give that time, to my innermost self, because I need to heal, I need to heal from this, I want to think better, I want to act better, I want to be a better person today than I was yesterday. I want to be able to be of service, I want to be able to help somebody, carry some kind of message other than the mess. I want to carry a message of hope. I want to carry a message of love. And, I can look at myself in the mirror today, the person that hated myself when I got here, and say, I love you to me. That's a big deal. I can look at you and tell you I love you and mean it. It's not just lip service. It's truly from my heart. I couldn't do it alone. I've been fortunate I haven't had to try that. I haven't had to try to do it alone. You always just show up. You just show up at the right time, the right people, and I get blessed. And then my job is to pass it on, just to pass it on. And I think that's all I got. So thanks for letting me share.